Hi, welcome to the weekly current affairs video sessions by IQCivils. For this particular week, we are to deal with four important topics, right? The first one, as you can see on the screen, it's called the significance of Maldives, pro-China President Muizu's New Delhi visit, right? The second one that will deal is with the article talks about the powers of the speaker. The third topic that we'll discuss today is in the first meet, Cabinet okays 3 crore news houses under PMEY, that is your Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, right? And the last one today would be special category status, and it's something in news why because Bihar has been repeatedly asking about it, right? So, moving on to the first topic this year for this particular session. Uh, Yes, as you can very well see that important topics from the important areas from the article has been already highlighted, which I can read to you. That the president of Maldives, Mohammad Muizu, was one of the 7 leaders from India's neighborhood. Okay, so the India Out candidate, which is of course reason validated here. So Muizu came to power on November 17th last year. On the India Out plank, the India Out campaign had begun in the year 2020. Okay, so this is basically Maldives' opposition protest against the then President Ibrahim Soli's policy that were perceived to be friendly towards New Delhi, right? And it was so suggested that Soli and India were very close, had a very close relationship, and that India had some kind of secret military arrangements stationed in Maldives. However, both the countries back then did not agree to such. Yes. However, you can go through the other areas. You can also talk about the article also talks about the then president Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom, who ruled Maldives from 2013 to 2018. This is the time when the relationship between India and Maldives deteriorated subsequently. Why? Because uh, Abdullah Yamin was also seen to be very much pro-China, and it was at that time when the BRI initiative of China had taken a lot of stronghold in the Maldivian islands. Yes. So the next area which is being highlighted here is the Muizu broke with a Maldivian tradition to choose Beijing over New Delhi for his first foreign visit as president. It was generally in the history and tradition of Maldives that whoever became the president of Maldives, he would first come to New Delhi, right? However, as his first state visit. Okay, but for this time, Maldives did not go to India, but instead it flew to China. That is your Beijing. So this was one particular arrangement which was seen as a little difficult. Then the island nation is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. We definitely know what is the Belt and Road Initiative of India. Sorry, of China. So this is another concern for India for the relationship of India with your Maldives. Okay, so this we understand it's a historical relationship. It so says that it secures its maritime periphery and to keep an eye on the larger Indian Ocean region. So these basically talk about the significance of right significance of Maldives at the foreign policy of India, and especially in the Indian Ocean region, which India is now trying to escalate, and it's very large, right? So, coming back to the historical aspect of it, or maybe let's start off with the present situation. Why the relations between both the countries have deteriorated? First, the recent undiplomatic words that was used by a few ministers from Maldives against Prime Minister Modi in particular and Indians in general, right? And secondly, as we have already got to know herein, that Muizu broke this tradition of not coming down to New Delhi, but going off to China. Instead, Muizu is also reported to have said that, or rather, he requested China to become the largest tourists or to provide the largest number of tourists to Maldives. Okay, this is so said because in the year 2013, by what we understand from data, it is so said that 209,198 people from India went off to Maldives as tourists, right? However, for China, it was 187,118, right? So therefore, there was a huge difference, and therefore, this particular president of Maldives, Muizu, he has now suggested or requested China that he becomes the or he rather reclaims the top spot in the arrival of tourists here. Okay, and the interesting idea is that Muizu became the president of Maldives by taking care of the India Out campaign, which here in the article we have already referred. What was it? Yes. So there have been certain ups and downs in the relationships of Maldives and India in the recent times, right? So if we need to talk about the history of it, it has gone through several stages, right? Maldives got independence from the British in 1965, yes, and from 1965 to 1978, this was the very early years of diplomatic relations with Maldives, right? Then comes the area of strategic partnership, all right. So it started from the year 78 to 1988, right? So here at this time we signed a boundary agreement, or rather maritime boundary agreement, in the year 1979, yes, which helped define the maritime boundaries between both the countries. Again, coming to the next part, that was a political turbulence area. Yes. So this particular idea was from the year 1988 to 2008. This was at this rather in this particular timeline, there was an Cactus Operation Cactus, which the Indian Army launched. Why? Because in Maldives there was a coup which was tried to be initiated, military coup, and India, through this particular operation, it wanted to bring about a stable government or the stable political dispensation in Maldives, which was also seen otherwise, right? Then there was a brief period of normalization in the economic cooperation, right? It was then it was then the time of President Nasir, all right, Nasir. So, who laid focus on economic cooperation, trade, and people-to-people ties, right? And then again, we have understood about the particular regime from 2013 to 2018. It was President Abdullah Yamin who was seen to be a little pro-China. Yes, and since 2018, the relations between Maldives and India started bettering. Why? Because it was President Ibrahim Muhammad Soli, right, who was seen pro-India. Okay, so therefore, this is how changes was recorded in the relationships of India and Maldives. Yes, because we understand Maldives is an equatorial country. Maldives is an equatorial country, right, along with three other countries from the South African continent, right? Six other countries from the African continent, and then we also know that another one is Kiribati. Yes, so Kiribati is there, and also we have Maldives. Okay, so all these countries, they from through them the equator passes. This is the reason the trade route becomes very important, because it is somewhat Maldives is somewhat in between the Gulf of Aden and the Strait of Malacca. So therefore, it acts as a toll gate kind of a thing, and most of India's external trade, somewhat around 80% of it, passes through this area. The also taking into consideration the energy imports. Yes. So therefore, this is why the relation between strong relation between India and Maldives is important. At the same time, it has to also be important. Why? To counterbalance China, because China is trying to influence majorly in the Indian Ocean region, trying to foster as a regional power here. So for this reason, balancing is important, and that's the reason India's relationship with Maldives becomes very important here, right? And for that matter, of the total 50 crore trade that happened between India and Maldives in 2022, some 49 crore was India's exports to Maldives. So therefore, Maldives is very extensively dependent on India for most of its daily items for its use, right? And also to talk about the security and defense cooperation. Since 1988, defense and security has been a major area of cooperation between both the countries, right? And 70% of Maldives defense training is done by India, either in that particular territory or in India. So therefore, majorly India's relations with Maldives is important, and that it is very significant that the pro-China president Muizu has come to New Delhi. Okay, at the swearing-in ceremony of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. So this is majorly about the India and Maldives relationships. I'm quite sure you'll be understanding a lot about it in much detail for your mains examination, and also about certain areas which will be concerned for your prelims. So this majorly forms part of your GS2 syllabus, right? So considering the international relations part, right? So moving on to the second topic for today. So we understand the powers of speaker. This particular thing calls about if I need to take care of whatever has been the important areas, okay, the important areas in this particular article. It so says the Constitution of India provides for the offices of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker who, according to Article 93, are to be elected as soon as may be after the commencement of the House, right? The Speaker is elected by a simple majority in the House. The motion of no confidence can be moved against the Speaker with a notice of 14 days, Article 94. Right, Speaker can also face disqualification because he is also a member of the Parliament. The salary of the Speaker is drawn from the Consolidated Fund of India, right? And for the other MPs, which we know that it follows the statute voted on by the House, right? So to talk about the powers of the Speaker, we know he is the sole person to conduct the House, the business of the House, in connotation with the questions, because we understand there are starred questions, there are unstarred questions, yes, and there are also short notice questions. All these form a major part of your question hour. So, for an MP to start the question, it will be decided by specifically by the speaker if the question has to be admitted as a start question, and if or it has to be admitted as an unstart question. The difference between the start and the unstart questions that we understand is that the start questions will have to have a verbal form of reply, okay, verbal reply, and along with it, based on whatever this minister replies, there would be a supplementary question. All right, supplementary question by the concerned member of parliament. So therefore, it becomes important, right? And of course, whatever will be recorded in the business of the House, whatever will not be recorded in the business of the House. So everything is dependent on the discretion of the Speaker, right? So in consideration of votes and divisions, the Speaker is the most important. In the no confidence motion, when will it be taken care of? How it should be? How should it be done? So all these things definitely a Speaker takes concern of. About the casting vote, we definitely know if there is a tie between on any particular idea or any particular voting, so the speaker has to have a casting vote, and this is normally not the case. However, if given a chance, the speaker generally casts his vote in favor of the government, right? Majorly why this role of speaker is in use in the recent times is the idea of disqualification, right? And this is the reason why the present in the present dispensation, the ally parties are also asking for the post of the speaker, right? So if you can see here, it tells us that the 10th schedule or the anti-defection law introduced by the government constitutional amendment act of 52nd amendment act of 1985 to disqualify legislators who defect from a party. Then we have the Kyoto Holohan versus the case in 1992, the Supreme Court saying something, and there was a recent case in the year 2020. So these things becomes important for us. So initially what happened is of defection that we know, the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So it majorly deals with it. So it was instituted in the year 1985, right? So what happened is after the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1985, so the 10th schedule to the Indian Constitution was enacted, right? So this talks about disqualification of members or MPs on grounds of defection, okay? On grounds of defection. Fine. So therefore, to talk about this particular idea, we know what defection is. That is basically from one party to another for of course reason political gains. So in this process, what we have to understand is the speaker's role is defined as the final word, right? So it was until this particular case, that is Kyoto Holohan versus Jashilu in 1992. So until then, the speaker's verdict in the matters of defection what we treated as final, yeah. So but then following this particular case, which was a Supreme Court directive, so Supreme Court so said that the power vested in the speaker and said that the only final order of the speaker will be subjected to judicial review. So therefore, the final idea or final distribution of the speaker can be challenged at the court of law under malified conditions, right? So sorry, intentions. So therefore, this becomes a huge landmark case for all of us. And in the recent years, what was seen was that the speakers mostly they used to sit on the petitions. They used to sit on they used to sit on the various petitions by the various members of the government if somebody had to defect, right? So therefore, in an order to curb that idea, so what the Supreme Court in the recent years in 2020 had ruled is that the Speaker of the assemblies and the Lok Sabha must decide with qualification pleas within 3 months, excepting the extraordinary circumstances. So therefore, this is very important that the speakers they decide within 3 months of the time whenever the petition is so filed, right? So therefore, this was mostly about the speaker's powers, and this is of course reason generally they are denoting to your GS second paper, particularly polity, right? Uh, Now coming back to the third topic of today. So this was the first decision that this particular government, the first cabinet decision was taken. So this is majorly about the PM Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Then they have also talked something about the PM Kisan Nidhi. Okay. So the most important idea here are basically two schemes. One is PMAY and the other is PM Kisan, right? The other is PM Kisan. So under PMAY, that is your Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, there are two particular components. One is the urban component, and the other is your Grameen component, right? So for the urban component, the beneficiaries will be economically weaker sections, low income groups, and middle income groups. However, for the Grameen particulars, the beneficiaries would be identified by the socio and economic caste census, which happened in the year 2011, right? So for this particular idea, that is PMAY Grameen, so there are various other schemes. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, right? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, then your Manrega. Okay, so all these schemes are also to be converged along with this particular idea, right? And the Prime Minister so says that some 3 crore, some 3 crores houses will be given, under which 2 crore will be constructed under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen, while 1 crore will be given to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, right? So under this particular cabinet decision, there has been certain increments in the amount of money which will also be given. For example, the highlighted area also reads, under the PMAY Grameen, each beneficiary gets funds up to 1.2 lakh in the plains and 1.3 lakh in the hilly states, difficult areas and tribal and backward districts under the integrated action plan, right? So accordingly, they have increased. So the sources so said the center has decided to increase the cost of construction of the Pradhan Mantri Grameen Awas Yojana Grameen house existing 1.2 lakh to 1.8 lakh in the plains and from 1.3 lakh to rupees 2 lakh in the hilly areas, right? So this has been has been a change which has come herein, and this is definitely a centrally sponsored central sector scheme, because the center and the state share the expenses in 60 is to 40 ratio in the case of plain areas and 90 is to 10 ratio in the northeastern states, two Himalayan states and the UTs of Jammu and Kashmir. So basically the special category states, they are to receive the fund in the condition of 90 is to 10. So 90 will be given to you by the central government, and 10% of the funds will be given to us by the central government. So this is basically a shared idea, right? So this is mostly about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. To talk about Pradhan Mantri Kisan, that is your Kisan Nidhi. Okay, so this is nothing else but giving of 6,000 rupees to the farmers, the landholding farmers, or rather a farmer family would be given about it. Okay, so they will be given in the installments of 2,000, 2,000, 2,000 for 3 times, right? In a year's time, in 1 year's time. Okay, and this is to help them additionally with their crops, with the better ideas of farming. Fine. Mm. And the list of whoever is going to get this particular amount will be decided by the state governments. Okay, so this is mostly about the Pradhan Mantri Kisan, that is your Kisan Nidhi, right? So moving towards our last discussion today. So this definitely talks about the special category status, and the article largely talks about every nuance of it. So moving on to the important highlighted areas. So why is this particular thing in news? Because Bihar is wanting a special category status to be granted by the center, a move that would increase the amount of tax revenues that the state gets from the center. Okay, so what is a special category status? So the special category status, which was introduced in 1969 based on the recommendations of the Fifth Finance Commission. So this was majorly there was this idea or formula called the Gadgil formula. All right, so the Gadgil formula, and Mr. Gadgil, he was the deputy chairperson of the Planning Commission, which was important institution back at that time. So all the parameters and all the ideas by which such a recommendation was made uh, does talk about the Gadgil formula even now, right? So coming next, the intent was to help the states that are disadvantaged in terms of their geography, social economic status to improve their position on par with others, more developed Indian states, right? So criteria being having a hill terrain, sizable tribal population, state can be granted special category status. Just like we have talked earlier, this is nothing else but the Gutkill formula. Okay, so what will the state which has been given a special category status be able to do? It will be able to claim more funds from the center than otherwise, and can also enjoy various tax-related concessions, right? So for the initial hours, only the states of Jammu Kashmir, Assam, and Nagaland were given such a status. However, in today's condition, we have some 11 states out of 28 who enjoy a special category status, right? The article also talks about why is Bihar demanding such a case situation, why if Bihar rather should be given a status, something like that. All these ideas are important. However, this particular thing becomes important from a first region, the GS second paper, the polity, the federalism concept. Yes, the federalism, and also if you can talk about from GS1 perspective, society can also be involved, right? So the idea is, if center has to increase the number of special category status, more or less what happens is for all the centrally sponsored schemes, generally where the central has to give you 60% of the total fund. Okay, but in such situations, the central government has to pay some 90%. So this definitely affects the fiscal situation of the central government, right? So this becomes very important, and if for that matter, you can see here that it is not only Bihar, it is also Andhra Pradesh, it is also Orissa, which are demanding because of its proximity to floods and also a significant tribal population, right? So the major idea is, if each of the other states start demanding such a situation, it becomes difficult for the central government to take care of, right? And also, this is by majorly seen as an incentive, not as an incentive rather. Uh, uh, if we need to take care of this article, this part of the article, it so suggests that many analysts say that this demand based on economic backwardness is still very justified. Uh, they believe the state governments will be able to spend more on the welfare projects such as to boost the state's infrastructure. But there is a contradictory idea about this particular thing, which so says that the increased allocation of funds to poor states is incentivizing the bad policies and penalizing more the developed states which are adopting a better policy, right? So therefore, to understand this idea of special category states, there are various positives and there are various negatives as well. So therefore, this forms an important part of your GS2 syllabus and can be expected as a question in your mains examination. And for your prelims, what is the special category status? How is it done? What was the formula being utilized? What are the conditions? When was it first taken care of? Which we have already discussed at this part of the article. So majorly, this was all for today. Thank you.